on KTRS.
(9:10) here on the Big 550, KTRS. Last night on Channel 9, I hope you had a chance to see Stone Phillips' hour-long show called Moving with Grace, the documentary about his mom. It was actually very good. I sound surprised. It was very good. But you know what? Tonight, there's more good stuff on Channel 9. Dr. Richard Beeman is here in studio. Dr. Richard Beeman, welcome to Big 550 KTRS.
It's great to be here.
You host a new PBS show called Constitution USA.
Well, I'm a supporting actor in
You're
a new show
actor.
called Constitution USA. Peter Sagal, the host of the NPR show Wait, Don't Tell Me, is the star of that show. He rides around the country in a red, white, and blue Harley-Davidson motorcycle interviewing people about what they think about our sacred but much contested document.
It is a 4-part series called Constitution USA, starring, as you said, Peter Sagal is the host. It's Tuesdays at 8 p.m., and it repeats on Thursdays beginning May 9th on PBS, but you should tape it or DVR tonight starting at 8. It's a 4-part series, and you're the leading constitutional scholar they go to.
Well,
You're
I'm
the go-to guy.
I'm the go-to guy when it comes to the 18th century framers of the Constitution. I've got a lot of knowledge about that and lots of opinions about the 21st century Constitution.
What is fascinating to me about the Constitution is that people are, when you hear the arguments of today, how unbelievably similar they are to the arguments in 1776.
You're absolutely right. And you know, the number of people who come up to me and say, the Constitution is being destroyed. President Obama is destroying the Constitution. And this has never happened before. And then I take them back to the arguments that James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, two of the principal framers of the Constitution, the authors of the Federalist Papers, within a couple of years, they were fighting it out like crazy over what the Constitution meant. So people have always thought it was being destroyed, but you know what? It's still around.
But there's the argument, it's the Scalia argument, which is read it literally. And which is great, but to fit a 21st century world into an 18th century or 17th century document is almost unrealistic, is it not?
Amen, McGraw. You're not going to get any argument from me.
Oh, you're one of those constitutional
on that.
scholars.
That's right.
Right.
On that one, but truly, if you look at the history of our Constitution, the way our country has evolved under the Constitution, it has been a living Constitution. Our Congresspeople, our presidents, our Supreme Court justices have not regarded it as merely a legal text, which is Justice Scalia's originalist judicial philosophy. They have ultimately listened to we the people in deciding what the Constitution means. Now, that doesn't mean they listen to we the people in the latest CNN or Fox News poll, but that they try to step back and take a more detached view of what the American people want their country to be like.
Activist judges is such a great word because, as we were listening earlier today with that new book on the Supreme Court, it means so many things to so many different people. And an activist judge is somebody who is voting against what you think they should vote for, right? I mean, that's what an activist judge is.
I think that's right. Certainly, Justice Scalia always rants against activist judges on the left, but he is, let's say, very active in advocating his judicial philosophy. I must say that if there is a justice on the court who seems to believe in judicial restraint. It is the subject of Marshall Coyle's book, Justice Roberts, and his very kind of tricky decision
Right.
in the healthcare case, I think, suggested that he was looking for a way to bow to the will of the majority in Congress.
So you're saying that your read of this as a constitutional scholar is that Roberts really did the conservative thing and say, look, it's not my place to overturn this. I will come up with any reason I can to not overturn this, because ultimately, if this is what the elected officials voted for and they were elected in, it can be repealed through the process of elections and legislation, and it's not our role.
That's right. He did what advocates of a conservative judicial philosophy would do. I will say, it just so happened that I was driving down the road in the state of Kentucky right after that healthcare decision was rendered, and the only station that I could get on my car radio was the Rush Limbaugh show.
Right.
And Rush Limbaugh certainly didn't think that was a conservative decision. Right. He was pretty upset.
You need an iPhone so you can download the KTRS app to your phone so you can listen to us wherever you are in the country.
There you go. Well, I'll remember that.
Dr. Richard Beeman is one of the talking heads in a 4-part series called Constitution USA. What are some of the things we will see you do in this series? Or hear you talk about topics.
You'll see and hear me talk about how the founding fathers defined federalism, the balance of power between the states and the federal government,
which we're still dealing with today.
Yeah, right, and which has been a continual subject of debate.
It's a never-ending argument.
That's right, and my answer, Peter Sagal asked me, so. What can you tell us what they thought? And my answer was no.
All right, next.
I can't do it. Next question. And then I went on to say the immense range of views that they had on that balance. They did create a federalist system, but they didn't really define the specifics of how that worked.
But there is no answer, right? I mean, this is an unsolvable puzzle.
Well, it's an ongoing debate among we the people and hopefully our civil and responsible political representatives.
Here's what I find fascinating about the world that I get to comment on a daily basis is that your position on federal power versus state power depends on who's in the Oval Office. If it's your party who's in the Oval Office, you don't have a problem with federal power. If your party's not in the Oval Office, you most certainly have a problem with federal power.
Yeah, there's a very interesting issue going on right now about gun control, and that the recent Supreme Court decisions have overturned state and local laws trying to regulate gun control, and so suddenly it's liberals who support gun control, who are usually the supporters of an aggressive central government, who are very unhappy with the Supreme Court and the central government intervening in the ability of states to regulate guns.
Yeah, no, it's and I'm not picking one side or the other. Right. It's both sides. Now, the other thing that I find interesting in this world we live in is that there are many people who champion one amendment to the Constitution and say this is our God-given right, this is that. They champion one and they disregard another. For example, guns, as you mentioned, right? They have a right to a well-regulated militia, and by golly, it's your constitutional right. Yeah. But if an American citizen is charged with, say, putting a bomb at the end of a marathon, as an American citizen, he shouldn't be charged and read his Miranda rights. He should be given some other type of legal status. He's an American citizen, and under the Constitution, he's granted the same rights as you and me and everybody else.
That's absolutely right. I think one of the most interesting things about studying these constitutional conflicts is that it's almost never right versus wrong or the clear-cut violation of one right. It's almost always about rights in conflict. And those are the really difficult but also interesting cases in how we balance the various liberties that we give to Americans in the various parts of the Constitution.
Heaven help us if these American homegrown terrorists ever assemble a well-regulated militia.
Yeah.
What are we going to do then?
Yeah. Well,
treat them as enemy combatants and then give them guns?
That's right. That's right. I think the Founding Fathers, when they talked about a well-regulated militia, did in fact think about a state militia.
Yeah. Well, that's for another time. Going forward, Constitution-wise, Supreme Court-wise, we talk about guns takes up an inordinate amount of space and air. But isn't it privacy going forward is going to be the big constitutional issue in the next 20 years?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's actually a scholar by the name of Jeffrey Rosen who writes extensively on this subject, and with some as we live in the age of Facebook and Twitter and all the rest, not to mention government's amazing ability to find out who we're talking to and what we're doing, all in the name of an important government function, protecting the security of Americans.
Right, and I think it's dangerous when you're for it every other 4 years, depending on whose party wins, right? You're all for it when my guy wins, but you're against it when the other guy wins. So, that's a dangerous game.
And so we're in uncharted waters there. And, I have great respect for the Founding Fathers, but excuse me, Justice Scalia, if you go back and ask the Founding Fathers what they would have thought about that, they would have gone, what? Facebook?
Yeah.
Computers? I mean, it's a different world.
Who's your favorite Founding Father?
That's a tough one because I've got many, but I think it's Benjamin Franklin, even though he didn't play a particularly important role in the convention. His combination of wisdom and good humor and civility really made him very, very special.
My favorite is Alexander Hamilton.
Well, he was maybe the smartest of the Founding Fathers. He was also a little on the arrogant side. I hate to say this, McGraw, but
that makes sense.
But
why I like him.
if your hero Alexander Hamilton had his way, we would have pretty close to a monarchy in America. He gave a 5.5-hour speech in the Constitutional Convention saying that we really ought to follow that British Constitution as closely as possible.
Well, he was almost a British subject, was he not? He was born in the West Indies.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The bastard brat son of a Scots peddler, according to John Adams.
Do not come into my show here, Dr. Richard Beeman, and badmouth my favorite Founding Father. It's not very nice.
I've been appropriately admonished.
You've been appropriately scolded. The 4-part series, Constitution USA, starts tomorrow night. Started last night. Repeats tomorrow, and then all throughout the time. Just find it on your DVR. It's called Constitution USA, 4-part series. Our guest, Dr. Richard Beeman, is one of the most important talking heads. He's my favorite talking head on Constitution USA. How about that?
Thank you.
Do all constitutional scholars have to wear a bow tie?
No,
it's
not.
That in the Constitution?
It is not in the Constitution, but it's part of the living Constitution for me.
Fair enough, Doctor. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
9:23 here on the Big 550 KTRS. You want to organize your life? One simple phone call to